You ever wonder what separates good decision makers from the truly great ones? Well, what if I told you it was one tiny habit? It's a technique that a very small fraction of people use to get these incredible results. And today, we're going to break down exactly what it is and how you can start using it.
All right, let's dive right in. It all kicks off with something we're calling the 1% secret.
Yeah, 1%. That's it. According to the research we're looking at today, only about 1% of people, just one out of every 100, are actively and consciously using this powerful technique we're about to explore. It's a tiny, tiny fraction.
So you gotta ask, right? What is this secret knowledge they have? What do these folks know that gives them such a massive advantage when it comes to controlling their own thoughts and actions?
To really get this habit, first, we need to look under the hood a little bit. We have to talk about the hardware it runs on. We need to talk about your two brains. The truth is, for most of us, our brain's default setting is this reactive survival mode. It's designed for pure speed, not accuracy. You know the feeling. It's what makes you snap back in an argument before you've even really heard what was said, or what makes you click buy now on something you'll regret tomorrow. So you've got these two systems inside your head basically in a constant tug of war. On one side, you've got survival mode. It's fast, emotional, impulsive. That's your brain's autopilot. But on the other side, you've got reasoning mode. This one's slow, logical, and deliberate. It's the part of you that actually stops and thinks things through. So here's the million-dollar question, right? If our brains are hardwired to just react, to just stay in that survival mode, how do you actually flip the switch? How do you consciously jump over to that more thoughtful, reasoning part of your brain when it really counts? Well, that's where the solution comes in, and it's something beautifully simple. It's called the pause habit. The best way to think of it is like this. The pause habit is the mental switch. It's the little tool that lets you stop being a passenger just getting yanked around by your impulses and lets you become the pilot in the cockpit. It puts you back in control. So what is it exactly? It's almost ridiculously simple. The pause habit is just the conscious practice of waiting a few seconds before you react to some kind of trigger. It could be a frustrating email, a comment that gets under your skin, or a sudden craving. You just wait. That's it. That's the entire habit. Okay, so knowing the definition is one thing, but how do you actually start doing this? How do you make it a real part of your life? It breaks down into this super simple 3-step playbook. First, you just have to notice the trigger. Feel that little flare of anger or that jolt of anxiety. That's step 1. Step 2, you intentionally pause. Just count to 3 in your head. 1, 2, 3. That's all it takes. And then third, in that tiny bit of space you just created, you get to choose your reaction. You're not on autopilot anymore. And I really want to stress, this isn't just some neat little psychological trick. It's actual mental training. The research is clear on this. This simple practice physically and slowly rewires your brain. You are literally building a new neural pathway, one that leads away from impulse and towards intention. So what's the long-term payoff? This is where things get really, really interesting. Let's talk about how this simple practice can actually rewire you for higher intelligence and way more cognitive control. So here's how that change happens over time. The very first time you pause, it's going to feel tough, right? It's a really conscious choice. But after just a week of practicing, that pathway to your reasoning brain gets a little easier to find. Then, after about a month, that new deliberate response starts to feel less like an effort and more like your new default habit. And the result of all this consistent practice is just profound. You end up with way more cognitive control, which leads to what we could call a higher functional intelligence. You're just better at applying logic and reason. Your decisions become more deliberate, and ultimately you can reach a state of cognitive mastery where you, not your impulses, are finally in charge. So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. A trigger, some little moment that's going to test your patience, is probably just minutes or maybe hours away. So the only real question is, how are you going to use that tiny but incredibly powerful space between?